Hello, future teacher, and welcome to this Praxis 5002 test preparation lesson covering your exam topic titled Writing, Speaking, and Listening. This video is proudly presented by teacherpreps.com. This portion of the guide will help equip you with essential insight into how to effectively communicate and facilitate communication in educational settings to help you get totally prepped for exam day. By the end of this lesson, you will have a firm grasp for the characteristics of common types of writing, the characteristics of effective writing, the developmental stages of writing, digital tools for producing and publishing writing, the research process, the conventions of standard English, determining the meaning of words and phrases, the characteristics of language, and now, without further ado, let's jump straight into this lesson. Now, to begin, let's focus first on writing and understanding the characteristics of common types of writing. First on the list is opinion or argument writing, which is used to persuade or convince the reader of the writer's point of view or argument concerning an issue. Key components when it comes to this type of writing include the thesis statement, which is clearly laid out in order to state the opinion or the argument that's being presented. The supporting evidence, which are the facts, the data, and examples that reinforce the argument, are important too. And of course, counter arguments that address potential opposing views. Under the opinion or argument writing, we have its subgenres that include editorials and newspaper or magazine pieces, also persuasive essays and speeches too. We also have informative writing that you'll want to be prepared for test day. Let's talk about it. Remember, the informative writing is used to inform, explain, or clarify ideas, concepts, and processes right to the reader. Key components of informative writing include a clear topic, which is clearly defined early in the text. We also have the facts and details that provide accurate and relevant information to explain or inform. Lastly, take note that information is logically organized, often with headers and subheadings. Remember, we teach these text structures to our students. Informative writing has subgenres, which include how-to guides, reports, and documents. Moving on to the third type, which is narrative writing. This is used to tell a story or to narrate events, often with the intent of entertaining the reader. Key components of narrative writing include the characters that carry out the story. We also have the plot, which is the sequence of events that makes up the story. Lastly, we have setting, and this is the time and place where the story occurs. The subgenres of narrative writing could include examples like novels, short stories, and narrative poems too. Last but not least is descriptive writing. This is used to create a detailed picture of a person, place, or thing, or even an event through vivid sensory details. One of the key components includes sensory details, where you'll notice and often see the five senses being used by the writer in order to describe the subject and to evoke a strong image. It also includes figurative language such as metaphors, similes, idioms, and also different descriptions. And of course, we have a focused impression that aims to convey a specific mood or feeling to the reader. Subgenres in this type of writing include examples like travel writing, character sketches, and food reviews. When it comes to effective writing, there are a lot of things that we need to consider and also teach our students. Let's get to know them one by one. Effective writing is tailored to fit its intended task, purpose, and audience. This means that the content, the tone, and the structure should all align with the audience's expectation. To do this, we want to determine if the writing meets the specific criteria of the assignment or task that we can provide our students. Then we'll analyze whether the writing achieves this intended purpose, which is to inform, persuade, or entertain. Lastly, consider factors like age, background, and interests in order to evaluate the language and the style, as well as the content of the story or the material that you're reading. For example, review a persuasive essay intended for a scientific community to ensure it uses appropriate technical language, rigorous data, and a formal tone. Along with that, a well-written piece should be logically organized, clearly developed, and stylistically appropriate to convey its message effectively. To do this, check if the areas are supported with sufficient evidence and explanations. Look for depth and detail in the content. Then ensure the information is presented in a logical order with clear transitions between the points or the sections. Lastly, what we want to do is assess if the writer's style is consistent and suitable for the genre and purpose of the writing. For instance, if an analytical report, if that's what you're reading, then make sure to double check that each section is logically flowing from one to the next, as well as using clear headlines. Again, these text structures are what we want to teach our students so that they can identify the differences between different types of texts. Moving on, revision is the next stage that we'll talk about here, and this involves rethinking the content and structure of a piece of writing in order to improve the clarity and the impact of the person who's reading it. To do this, what we want to do is help our students understand how to add, delete, or modify information to enhance the writing position. Remember, a lot of students think the more they write, the better it is. But what we want to do is we want to clear that up and say, actually, a lot of concise writing makes for a better experience for the reader. Now, when it comes to structure, make sure that you're recommending and teaching how to reorganize paragraphs and sections to improve the logical flow. In language, propose edits to your students that will refine the word choice, sentence structure, and overall readability. For a narrative essay, what we might want to do is suggest to your student or students who are still working on this concept or skill in order to spotlight the character's emotions through their actions in the story to create even more depth. If on exam day you receive a question about instructional manuals, make sure to look for answer options A through D, that's A, B, C, or D, that use direct, action-oriented language and short informative sentences that sequentially guide the reader. Remember, this text type is all about getting the point across quickly in a simple and effective way. So, effective writing in this case is the process that involves multiple stages, which are planning, drafting, revising, and editing. These are the stages that you will not only be tested upon, but will help your students develop in their writing skills. The first step is to start with the brainstorming process, where we note and jot down ideas. We might use an outline or a structure of a scaffold that we can provide our students to make this process more clear and easy. Then, what we want to do is write our initial vision based on the plan that we just created, and in order to help get more ideas down on paper. Then the third step is to revise. In this case, we're reviewing the draft that we've already written. We're looking at the content as well as the organizational structure in order to make any changes that will help the reader better understand what the message is that we are trying to convey. Lastly, refine the writing for grammar, punctuation, and style. This is important and it takes time with students who are just learning this. So, this is often the final phase of the submission. So, if you get a question on your test about what stage each of these go into, remember we have planning and then drafting and then revising and then editing.